Now, when you think about the development on Bitcoin, like there's this meme now or narrative, I guess, that's persisted the last year or so that Bitcoin's just this like digital rock. You can't really do anything with it. No one builds on it. It just sits there and it just does its thing up to 21 million. Has Bitcoin development from like a software perspective, has that met your expectations over the last few years? You talked about Lightning, how that
Um,
started slower than you anticipated.
yeah, yeah. So, okay, so let's see. I think there are a couple ways to answer this question. I think on the most on the most basic level, I think that a lot of what we call Bitcoin development is really focused on things like reliability, making sure that Bitcoin remains reliable over time, a bunch of like low-level fixes that make things like node syncing faster and easier, and things like networking between Bitcoin nodes is more efficient or less susceptible to various types of censorship. And in that sense, I do feel that Bitcoin is a lot more reliable today than it was, let's say, 10 years ago. And even to the point that, in the past, we had a lot of significant technical concerns about Bitcoin's survivability. And I think that these days, many of them, if not most of them, have been kind of remedied. And while I cannot promise that Bitcoin will stay here forever, I think it's much more mature and stable than probably most of us thought it could ever be. So that, in that part, that's amazing. Um, but there was also this promise that a lot of people have been talking about earlier on, which was, if you look at altcoins, let's say in 2015, 2014, whatever, a lot of them promised some weird features that some of them are really laughable and were laughable at the time too. But the response from Bitcoiners has always been back then, look, if altcoins stumble upon something that is actually useful, I don't know, privacy features, smart contracts that are not too inefficient, I don't know, whatever it is, if they stumble upon something that we could actually use, then over time Bitcoin is going to adopt it and grow stronger. And it doesn't, Bitcoin doesn't have to be the first one to do those things. And I really subscribe to that idea. I was like, yeah, no problem. I don't care if we're going to be 2, 3 years late into some feature, 5 years late into something. That's fine. I mean, I think Bitcoin is so much, so superior to these other assets that like whatever, we can take the slow approach, and that's probably better if we get to keep the other amazing properties that Bitcoin has. Um, I kind of doubt that this is going to happen though these days. Like it seems like there are multiple reasons for that. I think that really, first of all, a lot of the discussions about just what is technically possible have kind of moved away from the Bitcoin community, and these days they happen in other crypto communities. I think that I think it's very unfortunate that some kind of um, loud thought leaders in Bitcoin propagate this idea that people in crypto must be either stupid or evil, um, because that's not true. Some of them are really smart and really skilled, and they're not evil at all. They're not. Some of them, I'm not. Some of them are not trying to do any sort of Ponzi scheme, and they're doing cryptography research, and they're doing whatever. And a lot of those things do not happen inside the realms of the Bitcoin community anymore. They used to, and they don't really, because I think that a lot of these um, a lot of these people just don't expect their ideas to be implemented in Bitcoin anymore.
Mm.
So it's not an issue of really anything other than they're trying to make an impact, and Bitcoin is kind of resistant to people trying to impact it, which is not a bad thing. I think that's what Bitcoin should be. But it creates this culture of stagnation, which I'm not sure how to bridge that gap, because I do think that there are things we can learn.
Hmm.
We're probably going to talk about things like recent developments on Lightning and stablecoins, as I mentioned before. I think that if we hope to, it's a question. Do we as Bitcoiners want to even compete in that field of stablecoins? Should we? Do we stand a chance to win? I don't know. Like those are big questions. But I think that if Bitcoiners do want to compete there, we can't close our eyes to what's going on in other ecosystems. We have to learn from that. There's been a lot of progress in the last 2-3 years with regards to how you can use stable coins in those other chains and those other platforms. So if we refuse to learn anything from that, I think that there's a very small chance that we'll be able to compete.
Yeah.
Um, so that's kind of it's kind of a two-edged sword. On one hand, yeah, I think Bitcoin became much more reliable than it used to be, and kind of fulfilled that goal of being a stable asset that people can trust that will stay here for the long term. And that's amazing. Like that was, we think of that today, that seems trivial, but back in the day, no one knew if Bitcoin was going to stick around,
Right.
So that's amazing. Getting to that point, I think, is amazing. But on the other hand, that promise of Bitcoin adopting the good parts of crypto, I feel like that promise was kind of forgotten.